Hi there, and welcome back. Tonight's story is a gentle one. It's about quiet moments and second chances, about the soft kind of love that arrives not with a spark, but with a name spoken just right. It's called You Remembered My Name, and it's a cozy, modern romance for anyone who's ever hoped to be truly seen and remembered. Before we begin, I invite you to get comfortable. Let the day fade out behind you. And if you'd like to support these stories, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from tonight. I always love hearing from you. Now, let the rain slow, the world hush, and your breathing soften, because this story is just for you. Let's begin. You remembered my name. It's the kind of rain that doesn't ask for attention, steady, quiet, falling in a soft hush that smooths over the city's sharper edges. You wrap your scarf a little tighter and step around a puddle shaped like a crooked heart. The streets are half empty this morning, except for the early risers and the romantics, both of whom tend to show up when it rains like this. You hadn't planned to come here. Your errands had taken you a few blocks off your usual path, and something a flicker of memory, or maybe just the promise of warmth, tugged you toward a street you haven't walked in years. It feels strange and familiar all at once, like hearing a song from childhood played on a slightly out-of-tune piano. There it is, still standing, the cafe you used to love, tucked into the corner where two quieter streets meet, just far enough from the main road to feel like its own little world. The same crooked wooden sign still hangs above the door, though the paint is more faded now. You think it used to say Hazel Pine, but the H is barely a whisper now. You're not sure if the owners ever noticed or if they just let the time have its way. You hesitate, just for a breath, then open the door. The bell overhead jingles with the same musical lilt it always had. You're not even fully inside, and already you smell it: cinnamon, nutmeg, a hint of orange peel, warm and golden and nostalgic. The air is thick with it, like a blanket you want to pull around your shoulders. The place looks almost exactly as it did all those years ago, a little more worn maybe. The wood floors are a shade more honeyed, and the walls are cluttered with a few more mismatched frames, hand-lettered quotes, drawings by customers, old newspaper clippings curling at the edges. It's still narrow and deep, with a long counter on the left, a shelf of books near the back, and tiny two-person tables tucked under the windows like secrets. Your boots squeak softly as you step forward. No one greets you right away, which suits you just fine. There's something comforting about being unnoticed, about slipping into a place like you never left. You approach the counter and study the menu chalked in looping handwriting across the board. Some of the drinks are new, but your favorite, the one you used to order with aching consistency, is still there: maple cardamom latte. You smile before you can stop yourself. Your hand lifts to your shoulder out of instinct, as if you still carried a school bag. There's a different barista now, a woman in her early 20s with deep smile lines and a lopsided bun. She offers a quiet good morning and waits for your order. You give your name, but you spell it out, the way you always do. People get it wrong a lot. You step aside, waiting for your drink. Your eyes wander. The same ivy still grows stubbornly along the inside of the window, its leaves glossy and heart-shaped. Someone left a book open on the windowsill, a poetry anthology, of all things. The pages lift slightly every time the front door swings open. Your name is called, your real one, not the shortened version you gave, not the mangled guess you're used to. You turn, surprised, not at the sound of your name, but at the voice that speaks it. It's him. He's standing at the counter, holding two cups. One of them is yours. He says your name again, this time softer, and there's a quiet astonishment in the way he looks at you. Not disbelief, not drama, just a kind of stunned recognition, like seeing the sun break through after hours of gray. He says, "I didn't think it was really you, but then you ordered that drink." You don't know what to say at first. His face is both familiar and altered by time, the boyish softness gone, replaced by something steadier, quieter, but his eyes are exactly the same, warm, attentive, not searching, remembering. You say his name back, and it feels like picking up a thread you didn't know had been left behind. He grins, and it's not a question. It's not how have you been, or do you remember me? It's just that smile, and the simple way he holds out your cup like you never left. You reach for it, fingers brushing briefly, and the smallest part of you, the one that still believes in timing and moments, and maybe even fate, wonders if the rain brought you here on purpose. He motions to the window seat. Your seat, the one you always took, farthest from the door, closest to the little radiator that always hissed like an old cat. It's empty now, like it waited. You hesitate. Then you nod. Because sometimes the past doesn't knock. Sometimes it just says your name. And sometimes, impossibly, someone remembers it. You sit down across from him at the window seat, the one that has seen too many seasons pass its wood worn smooth by elbows, coffee cups, and the quiet weight of thoughts not spoken out loud. The rain is still falling outside, but it's softened into more of a mist now, clinging to the window in delicate threads. The glass fogs slightly with each breath of warm air from the radiator, and it's just the two of you, here in this little bubble of then and now. He places your latte in front of you, and you take it in both hands, even though it's almost too warm to hold. The ceramic is familiar, smooth. You notice a tiny chip on the rim, and wonder, absurdly, how many people have sipped from this cup since you last sat here. How many conversations began and ended with the same soft scrape of porcelain on wood. How many stars blinked out and were born again since you last looked at the world from this angle. I wasn't sure it was you at first, he says, fingers curled around his own cup, sleeves slightly rolled. You changed your hair. You laugh, a sound that startles you just a little. It's been a while since laughter arrives so easily. I change it all the time now, you say. It's something I can control. He doesn't tease, doesn't press, just nods with that same open patience he always had, like he's here to hear whatever you choose to give, nothing more. The words come slowly, not because you don't know what to say, but because there's no rush to say them. You talk about where you've been, not in exhaustive detail, just small stories scattered like stones across a path. You tell him you left the city for a time, chasing something you couldn't quite name, that you thought maybe new air would help you breathe easier, that it didn't, not always. He listens the way some people hold books with reverence. You mention your job, a few friends, a little apartment above a bookstore where the heater clanks like an old train in the mornings. And he smiles like he can see it all, even though you haven't really described it. In return, he tells you he stayed, that he tried leaving once, too, moved out west for a while, taught at a school where the windows never opened and the coffee came from vending machines. He tells you he came back not because he failed, but because he missed the way rain smells on these particular streets, missed the way people here let you be quiet without expecting you to fill the space. Now, he teaches literature part-time at the university, the same one you both used to walk past in the evenings, just after lectures, when the lights inside made it look like a painting in motion. You're not surprised. He always carried stories like they were lanterns. You tell him that. He smiles. I always hoped you'd say something like that. There's a silence after that, but it isn't empty. It's soft and round and full of breath. You both sip your drinks, and the world outside the window goes on umbrellas bobbing by, raindrops making rivers down the glass, bicycles flashing like minnows across the street. Inside, everything feels still. You glance toward the back of the cafe and ask if they still keep the second-hand books near the counter. He nods. New shelf now, same disorganized mess. He grins. They added a donation jar, though. People are more generous when they think they're stealing. You get up and wander over for a moment, fingers grazing spines worn with time, A few of the covers are familiar. A battered copy of The Secret Garden. A poetry collection with your initials penciled on the inside, not yours, but close enough to make you pause. When you return to the table, he's pulled something from his coat pocket, a folded napkin. He slides it toward you. On it is a line in careful handwriting. We circle things before we touch them. You raise an eyebrow, your mouth quirking. That's not yours. He laughs, mock offended. I wrote it this morning, actually. You stare at him. I was sitting here, writing, before you walked in. He leans back in his chair, fingers threading behind his head. Like I said, maybe I hoped. You glance at the napkin again. Fold it once, slowly, and tuck it into your bag. Not because you believe in fate, not exactly, but because something about the moment feels worth keeping. He doesn't ask for your number, doesn't steer the conversation toward anything beyond this cup, this table, this hour. There's something sacred in the restraint, a promise that neither of you is trying to make anything happen too quickly. You talk about favorite books, about the cafe cat that used to sleep under the radiator, long gone now, but still memorialized in a photo taped to the tip jar. You talk about how strange it is to grow older and still feel like yourself, like the core of you hasn't changed even when everything else has shifted its weight. Time drips by, soft and golden. The other customers come and go. A man in a dark green coat buys a croissant and leaves it untouched on his plate. A pair of students laugh too loudly in the corner. A toddler drops a toy train, and the sound echoes like a bell. Eventually, you look down at your watch and realize you've been here much longer than planned. Your errands forgotten, the rain still falling. I should go, you murmur, reluctant. He nods, doesn't argue, just stands when you do, collecting his cup and yours. He pauses as you reach for your coat. Will you come back? He asks. His voice is low, steady, the kind of question asked by someone who won't chase your answer either way. You think for a moment, not out of uncertainty, but out of reverence, like giving your answer weight. I think so, you say, if it rains. And something about that makes him smile. Not big, not showy, just enough. You walk toward the door together. He holds it open for you. The wind has picked up slightly, rustling the trees like whispered pages. Just before you step outside, he says your name again. Softly, like a memory, like a song he never quite stopped humming. And you realize something. It wasn't just the drink he remembered. It was you. You don't plan it. The next morning, the rain is gone, and sunlight creeps across your bedroom in long golden stripes, the kind of light that makes everything look touched by memory. You wake slowly, stretch beneath the covers, and think of the way he said your name twice, like it was a secret only he remembered. You don't plan to go back, but somehow your steps meander that way after you finish your errands, as if your feet know something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. This time, the cafe is bathed in sunlight instead of mist. The light hits the windows just right, making the air inside glow. It's less crowded now. Late morning, too early for lunch, too late for rush. A few quiet regulars sit tucked into corners, a woman knitting something soft and gray, a man reading with his glasses on the end of his nose. A child naps in a stroller near the counter, small hands curled in sleep. You spot him instantly. He's already there, seated at the same window table, flipping gently through the pages of a book. No coffee yet, just a cup of water and a familiar, slightly hunched posture that says he's already lost in thought. Your heart does a small, curious flutter, not nerves exactly, just the awareness of something good returning, like finding an old coat in the back of a closet and slipping it on to discover it still fits. He sees you, smiles, closes the book. I hoped you'd come, he says without standing. You settle into the chair across from him without needing to ask. You notice he's brought something with him, a cloth-bound novel, old and worn. No dust jacket. The corners are soft as velvet. He watches you study it, then he places it gently in front of you. You open it slowly, your fingers careful on the fragile paper. On the inside cover, a library stamp, one you recognize from your university's little-known literature wing. The poetry section was always half forgotten, tucked between psychology and philosophy. You used to love it there. There, in faint pencil on the top right corner of the first page, is your handwriting. You blink. It's not your name. It's not a note to yourself or a borrowed annotation. It's a sentence you don't remember writing. Some books feel like holding hands with someone who hasn't arrived yet. You read it twice. Then again. He's quiet while you read, then softly. You wrote that. I found it in the margins years ago. You look up, stunned. I was shelving returns for a professor. I opened this book and saw your handwriting. I knew it was yours. You had that way of writing like the letters were leaning toward each other. You traced the pencil line with your fingertip. I don't even remember writing it. I do, he says. I copied it down. I carried it around for a while. You smile, not quite ready to meet his eyes. You really kept it? He shrugs, but there's a gentle honesty in the motion. It felt like something important, like maybe one day I'd remind you of it. The silence after that is different, still soft, still comfortable, but full. He rises then and gestures to the counter. Can I get you something? You ask for the same drink, maple cardamom latte, and he grins like he expected it. While he's up, you turn the book over in your hands. You run your fingers along the spine. Inside, a few more lines are underlined. Not in your handwriting. His. Maybe. You don't read them. It feels too private, like opening a window you're not quite ready to look through. He returns with your drink, and one for himself, something plain, black, no frills. You sip in silence for a while, your eyes occasionally catching his. You talk about the book, the author, the way their metaphors always felt a little too grand but somehow still worked. You talk about forgotten libraries and overfull notebooks, about how it's easy to leave pieces of yourself behind in the margins without ever meaning to. Sometimes, he says, I think the things we don't remember say more about who we are than the things we do. You watch him, the gentle crease of his brow, the way his thumb circles his mug's handle like it's a habit carved from years. He's older, yes, you both are. But there's something inside him that hasn't changed that soft, steady current of attention. He listens like you matter, like every word is a map he's trying to follow. You tell him about the journal you still keep. Not daily, not even often. But when something stirs you, a line overheard on the bus, a recipe passed down by your aunt, a dream that felt like a memory, you write it down. He nods like he understands. Words are places to put things that don't know where else to go. You smile at that. It feels like something you'll want to remember. The light shifts as clouds return. The cafe dims just slightly. The barista lights a candle near the register, a tiny flicker of amber in the corner of your eye. You don't talk about the past directly. You don't ask why he stayed, why you never saw each other again after that last spring. You don't ask if he ever looked for you, not really, because this moment is already full enough. Instead, you pull the book closer and write something inside the back cover. Your handwriting still a little slanted, still leaning towards something. You don't tell him what it says. You slide the book back toward him and watch his hands close around it like it's something fragile and important. When he stands to go, you rise with him. This time you leave together. Outside, the sky has turned pale and damp again. A fine drizzle coats the pavement. You have no umbrella. Without speaking, he opens his. You both fit beneath it just barely, shoulders brushing, the kind of closeness that doesn't demand anything, that simply exists, warm and quiet, under shared shelter. You walk slowly, not because the rain is heavy, but because neither of you seems in any rush to be somewhere else. Halfway down the block, he says, "Do you still write things in library books?" You smile. "Only when I think someone might need to find them." He doesn't answer, but you feel his smile next to you. At the corner, where your paths split, he doesn't press for plans. He just watches you like he's memorizing the moment. He says your name again softer than before, like it's something only he remembers how to say. And you think, not for the first time, that maybe some people are meant to come back, not to change your life, but to remind you who you are when you feel most like yourself. You take the long way home. The book is still in your bag. You haven't peeked at what he wrote in the margins. You want to wait, just a little longer. You don't expect to see him again so soon. The next day, the sky is heavier. The clouds press low like a weighted blanket, the kind of gray that makes everything move slower, even your breath. The rain comes and goes, never fully stopping, never quite letting up. You don't have anywhere urgent to be, and maybe that's why just before noon you wander out with an umbrella of your own and that book still nestled in your bag. You haven't looked at what he underlined. Not yet. Somehow, it feels more important to carry it than to read it, like it holds the echo of something that hasn't been said yet. You stop into the bakery first, the one that smells like sugar and lemon rind and still uses tiny handwritten tags in the display. You buy a single almond croissant, the kind with just a little too much powdered sugar. You tuck it into your coat pocket and keep walking. When you turn the corner, he's already there, standing just outside the cafe, under the striped green awning, reading something on his phone. No umbrella today, just his jacket collar turned up and his hands in his pockets. You pause, watch him for a moment from across the street, heart doing that quiet little skip again. Not loud, not dramatic, just a small flutter, like a page being turned. You cross. He looks up as you approach, and the way he smiles, slow and real and without surprise, tells you he was waiting, whether he meant to or not. "You're early," you say. He tilts his head. "Or you're late." You both know neither is true, but the words make space for something soft between you. The rain picks up just enough to tap the awning in a steady rhythm, a delicate percussion above your heads. You stand shoulder to shoulder, watching the street shimmer. You hand him half the croissant without needing to explain, and he takes it like it's the most natural thing in the world. For a few minutes, neither of you talks. You just chew and breathe and listen to the world blur gently around the edges. Finally, he nods toward your bag. "You still have the book." You nod. "Still haven't read your notes." He raises a brow. "Saving them?" You look up at the rain beyond the awning, savoring. That makes him smile again, that quiet, full kind of smile that seems to sit in the chest rather than the face. Eventually, you both go inside, but the window seat is taken today, an older couple playing cards and laughing at something private between them. You find a spot near the back, tucked into a little alcove with 2 worn armchairs and a crooked side table stacked with paperbacks. It feels like a room within a room, like you've stepped inside a hidden chapter. He offers to get the drinks this time. You don't argue. While he's at the counter, you finally open the book. You flip carefully, listening to the whisper of the pages, your fingers slowing each time you pass a faint underline. On one page, he's drawn a small star beside a phrase, "We are made of memory and waiting." On another, "There are days when I miss people I've never met, and hours when I find them in strangers." You trace the lines lightly, not reading ahead, not rushing. There's something reverent in the way you let them arrive. When he returns and sets your latte down beside you, he watches your face instead of the book. You don't speak. Just turn to a final page one where he's written something directly in the margin, not just underlined, but in his handwriting. Sometimes we remember each other before we know we've met. You stare at it for a long time. Finally, you close the book, set it carefully beside your drink. "Did you write that for me?" He doesn't answer right away. Then, I wrote it for the person I hoped would find it. The words settle between you, and neither of you tries to move them. They just stay, like rain pooling gently in the corner of a windowsill. You lean back in your chair, hands curled around your cup. You always did talk like that, you say, not unkindly, like you were building a story even while living it. He grins, sheepish. Occupational hazard. You sip your latte, now a little too hot, but you don't mind. You still carry napkins around in your coat? He pulls one from his pocket in response. Blank, crisp, waiting. You laugh, and it fills the alcove. Later, you find yourselves walking again. The rain is a light mist now, and the air smells like wet stone and something green. You walk in step, unhurried, the book in your bag and the umbrella between you, though it's not strictly needed. You turn a different way this time. Not home, just elsewhere. Eventually, you reach an old bookstore, the kind you used to love, with floorboards that creak like polite ghosts and a cat asleep in the front window. You glance inside. Want to go in? He asks. You consider, then shake your head. Next time, you say. He nods like he understands that what you mean isn't about books at all. A gust of wind picks up, and the two of you duck under another awning, this one striped blue, faded from years of sunlight. It's narrower, so you're closer now, shoulders touching. Your arms brush every time someone walks by, and you lean just slightly inward. He doesn't speak for a while. Then, quietly, I never really forgot your name. You turn toward him. Even after all this time? He shrugs, but it's not casual, it's honest. There's a difference between forgetting someone and not knowing how to find them. That lingers. You reach into your bag and pull out the napkin from yesterday, the one with the line he wrote. We circle things before we touch them. You smooth it out against the wall beside you. Do you think we're circling still? He looks at you, long and quiet. I think we're finally close enough. A drop of water lands on your wrist from the awning above, then another. The rain is back, but neither of you moves to leave. Instead, you stay where you are, watching the world go soft and silver again. You don't make plans. You don't define anything. But when he lifts his hand to brush a stray hair from your forehead, fingers warm, careful, it doesn't feel like a beginning. It feels like a remembering. It begins with a text, not a long one, not a question, just a photograph blurry at the edges, taken in warm indoor light. It's a folded piece of paper, aged and creased. On it, a line written in your handwriting. You can barely make it out in the image, but you recognize the curve of the letters, the slight tilt, the way you loop your G's and your Y's, like a ribbon trailing behind you. You don't remember writing it. Love, like light, lingers long after the source is gone. He sends it without comment, just the image, no caption, no expectation. You stare at the screen for a long time. You're curled up in bed when it arrives late, just before sleep. Outside, the rain is quieter tonight, more like a sigh than a song. You let the photo linger on your phone for a few more moments before you turn the screen face down on your nightstand. You lie in the dark, listening to the hush of the room, wondering how many pieces of yourself you've left behind over the years, notes scribbled in margins, lines on napkins, sentences whispered into coffee steam, words you wrote without knowing anyone would ever keep them. He kept them. You see him the next day. You don't plan it, not exactly, but there's an ease to your steps now, a rhythm. The cafe isn't just a place anymore, it's a pattern, a quiet return. And now, so is he. When you arrive, he's not inside, but you find a small envelope waiting for you at the counter, your name written carefully on the front. The barista hands it over with a knowing smile, the kind people give when they're rooting for something without saying it out loud. You slide into your seat at the back, not the window today, but the armchair by the bookshelf. The envelope is unsealed. Inside, Folded once is the line from the photo, in your handwriting. But beneath it, in his, he's written, "Some lights don't go out, they just change rooms." You don't know what to do with the way your chest tightens at that. It's not sadness, not even joy exactly. It's something deeper, like recognition, like something inside you answering back after a long silence. He arrives 10 minutes later, apologizing for the delay. He was caught in a used bookstore 2 blocks away, lost in a stack of poetry. The excuse is so wonderfully him that you don't need to hear more. You both order something new today, chai with oat milk for you, straight espresso for him. He says he wants to try everything on the menu before the end of the season. You say that's ambitious. He says it's a reason to stay. You sip your drink and let that sentence sit in the air between you. He asks if you remember the day the power went out during finals week years ago, when you were both still students, and the entire cafe was lit by tea light candles. You had exams the next morning and were furious at the distraction. He'd offered you one of his extra candles, and you'd ignored him at first, too tired to be polite. But then you'd accepted it anyway, because his smile made it hard to stay annoyed for long. You laugh as he reminds you of it. "I forgot about that," you admit. "I was so tired that week I could barely spell my own name." He nods. You spelled it out for the barista every time. You smile into your cup. Some habits die hard. You always corrected people, even when you didn't want to. I like that. You look at him then, the way he's leaning back, one hand wrapped around his cup, the other resting on his thigh. He's relaxed in a way that makes you feel more relaxed too, like you've both slipped into an old sweater that still fits, even after all this time. You reach into your bag and pull something out. A keychain, small, wooden, a carved star with faded blue paint, worn smooth around the edges. You set it on the table between you. "I found this in a drawer last night," you say. He picks it up, eyes wide with recognition. "You kept this?" "You gave it to me. After I failed that paper, said it was for navigation. I bought it from a vending machine," he admits. "I thought it would break in a week. It didn't." He turns it over in his hands like it's something precious, then sets it back down, carefully. "I forgot I ever gave it to you," he says quietly, "but I'm glad you remembered." "I didn't, not really," you admit, "not until I touched it again." Silence again, the easy kind. You both sit with the small things now sitting on the table, the keychain, the envelope, your 2 cups. A little constellation of memory and rediscovery. "I keep things," you say, almost like a confession. "Ticket stubs, receipts, dried flowers, little things. I never know why, I just can't let them go." He looks up, something soft in his eyes. "Some people collect stamps, you collect time." You nod. It feels like the right way to describe it. He reaches into his bag this time, pulls out a napkin, another one, this one not blank. He slides it toward you. The ink has smudged just slightly, but the words are clear. "Somewhere, we never stopped talking, we just paused." You place your fingers on it, press gently. There's a moment when your hands almost touch. Not quite, but almost, and it's enough. He doesn't ask if you're seeing anyone. You don't ask if he is. Neither of you need to. What's building between you isn't hurried. It isn't seeking definition. It just is. When you both get up to leave, you step out into the rain, soft again, gentle. You pull your umbrella from your bag, but he's already opened his. Without a word, you both fall into step. At the corner, the traffic light turns red. You pause beneath an awning, the city hushed beneath its blanket of clouds. He looks at you. "I never stopped wondering about you," he says, not in a constant way, but in that way you think about a book you loved and forgot to finish. You smile. Maybe we were meant to be a story with an intermission, or a story told in margins. You nod, thinking of the note he underlined, the one he carried, the ones you forgot writing. "You kept those words," you say. I did, even when I didn't. He doesn't need to answer. You can feel it in the space between you, in the quiet understanding that some things don't need to be held tightly to stay with us. They just need to be noticed. The rain begins to lighten, tapering to mist again. You don't say goodbye. You just walk. And the sound of your names, both of them, lingers in the silence that follows. The third time he waits for you beneath an awning. It isn't raining. It looks like it might, the sky hanging low, swollen and moody, but for now, it's just the two of you standing beneath the sheltering shade of canvas and memory, pretending not to notice how close you've begun to stand. He's holding something, a folded brown paper bag. The top is rolled neatly, the way your mother used to pack your lunches. He offers it to you without a word. You peek inside. 2 scones, one with blueberry, one with rosemary and sea salt, your favorite, somehow remembered without asking. There's a napkin inside too, not written on this time. Just soft, clean, folded. You look up at him. He shrugs. I figured if I was going to keep finding excuses to meet you, I should at least start offering food. You laugh, and it's the kind that slips out like breath, effortless and true. You find a quiet place to sit, not at the cafe today, but the small bench across from the old church garden, where lavender grows in wild tufts and bees hum sleepily between blooms. The bench is uneven, a little too narrow for 2 people to sit without brushing elbows, but neither of you seems to mind. You eat slowly. The scones are warm and flake apart easily. You share them both without bothering to ask who wants which. He tells you a story about his grandmother, who used to knit sweaters with one arm slightly longer than the other. She said it was to remind the wearer they were never quite done growing. You tell him about your grandfather, who used to write haikus on the back of receipts and leave them in library books for strangers to find. You both agree that you'd like to be remembered like that, small, tender legacies tucked into the world. After you finish eating, he leans back, legs stretched out in front of him, arms loosely crossed. He looks entirely at ease, like this is exactly where he's supposed to be. You too find your body easing into the space between words. He asks if you've written anything lately, not in books or on napkins, but in that journal you mentioned. You hesitate, then say, only one sentence. It came to me while I was brushing my teeth. He chuckles. Those are the best ones. You reach into your bag and retrieve the notebook. It's soft-bound, navy blue, the corners turned and faded. You flip to the page and let him read it over your shoulder. Some people aren't chapters, they're recurring characters. He's quiet for a moment. Then he says, "That's you, isn't it?" You turn, surprised. "In my life," he clarifies, "you always were." There's a long pause. The garden around you hums. Somewhere nearby, wind stirs the chimes hanging from a back porch. A robin hops across the gravel path, looking entirely unbothered by your presence. "I think I always thought you were a chapter," you admit. Something brief, something I'd remember fondly but distantly. "And now?" You glance sideways at him. His expression is soft, unreadable in the gentlest way. "I don't know," you say honestly, "but I haven't stopped turning pages since I saw you again." He smiles, not the kind that stretches wide or demands attention, but the kind that sits just at the corners of the mouth, the kind that grows slowly. "I think we're writing something," he says. "You think we weren't before?" "I think we started a story," he says, "and then left it in a drawer, but the pages didn't stop aging." You look down at your lap, then at your hands, then back at him. "And what if we're different people now?" He shrugs. "Then maybe the story is too, but it's still ours." A breeze passes. The clouds shift. The light changes, a softening around the edges of things. He glances up at the sky. "I think it might rain after all." You stand. He does too. You both cross the street slowly, neither one in a rush. The rhythm between you is easy now, unspoken and understood. You return to the awning, back to where you started. And just as you do, the first drops begin to fall. It's not heavy, just insistent enough to make people quicken their steps, to bring umbrellas blooming from bags like slow petals. He doesn't open his. You don't open yours. You simply stand there, side by side, listening. You glance at him. Do you remember the first time it rained after we met again? He nods. Of course. You said my name like you'd been waiting to say it. I had, he replies. You pause. And I think, you say softly, I've been waiting to hear it again. He turns to face you. You turn, too. There's a quiet now. Not silence, the rain makes sure of that, but a hush. A stillness that feels like breath being held, or maybe shared. He reaches out slowly, not toward your hand, but toward the stray raindrop that just landed on your cheek. He brushes it away with the back of his finger, light as a thought. And when he speaks, it's just one word. Your name. Not a question. Not a reminder. Just the word itself. Like a pebble dropped in still water. You say his name back maybe for the first time in years, and it feels like a door swinging open somewhere inside you. Not a loud one, just a creaky hinge, quietly letting in the light. You both stand there, watching the rain. People pass by. A woman holding flowers. A man walking a very small dog in a very large raincoat. A group of students laughing too loudly as they leap over puddles. The world continues. The story continues. And you? You stay there, beneath the awning, beneath memory, beneath the quiet possibility of something returning. Not because it had to, but because it could. He doesn't try to kiss you. You don't try to make anything happen. You just stand close, shoulder to shoulder, the rain tapping around you, his presence warm beside you, your name still echoing gently in the space between. Sometimes the most romantic thing in the world isn't what's said, it's what's remembered. The next time you see him, it's morning. Not early, not quite. Just that quiet part of the day when the city hasn't fully woken up yet, when the cafes hum in half light and the sidewalks feel soft underfoot like they're holding their breath. It's drizzling again. That steady, misty kind of rain that doesn't require an umbrella, just patience. You didn't sleep well, though not for any bad reason. It was the kind of restless night where your mind lingered on certain words too long, your name on his lips, his thumb brushing the raindrop from your cheek, the warmth of silence under the awning. You woke early, made a pot of tea, poured it into a mug, and forgot to drink it. The house was too still. Your fingers kept brushing your journal without opening it. So you walked. You didn't tell him you were coming. But the part of you that has always moved quietly through life, the part that folds notes into books, remembers lines without meaning to, takes the long way home, knew he would be there. And he is. Seated in the corner of the cafe, facing the window, a cup in his hand, a book open in front of him, though he's not reading it, he's looking out at the rain. His expression is calm, not waiting, just being. You order your drink quietly, no need to spell your name anymore, and slide into the seat across from him. He turns to you like you were expected, like your presence is just another gentle detail in a day already unfolding slowly. I thought it might be you, he says. You glance out the window. The glass is streaked with rain, making the city look like a watercolor painting left in the sun. You always come here when it rains? I always come here, he replies, but the rain feels like permission. Permission for what? He shrugs. Stillness, memory, softness. You sip your drink. It's a little too hot, a little too sweet, but it feels right. Like home, like how mornings used to taste before things got too fast. The cafe is mostly empty this time of day. A young woman in headphones sketches in a notebook by the door. A man with a camera takes photos of the pastries through the glass. The barista hums a tune you almost recognize but can't quite name. You glance at the book. He has opened, a novel, well read. pages curled with use. Good? You ask. He tilts it toward you so you can see the title. A quiet smile plays on his lips. It's a book you recommended years ago, just once, in passing. You barely remember the conversation, but clearly he did. I found it again last week, he says. In the free box outside the bookshop on Alder. I think someone else loved it too. It had 4 different kinds of handwriting in the margins. You grin. That's how you know it's been lived in. He nods. Like a borrowed sweater. You both fall quiet again. Not from awkwardness, never that, but from the kind of ease that doesn't need to fill every moment. The rain taps against the window. Somewhere, a kettle whistles. The room smells of cardamom and steam. After a while, he reaches into his coat pocket and places something on the table between you. It's a library card. Yours. Your old university library card bent at the edges. Your student photo still faintly visible in the corner. You blink in surprise. I found it tucked inside that poetry book, he says. The one with your note in the margin. Must have used it as a bookmark and forgot. You pick it up slowly. The plastic is cool in your hands. The photo is a little embarrassing, your hair longer, your eyes wider, the faint smirk of someone trying not to look like they care too much. I haven't seen this in years. I thought about mailing it, he says, but then I figured maybe it would mean more if I gave it to you in person. You run your thumb along the edge of the card. It's like holding a version of yourself you almost forgot, someone younger, quieter, but still you. Thank you, you say softly. He nods. I thought you might want to keep it. You tuck it into your wallet, just behind your ID. It fits perfectly, like it never left. You lean back in your chair and let your eyes drift to the window again. The city outside moves slowly, people with coffee cups, bicycles coasting through puddles, buses sighing at the corner. It's the kind of morning that asks nothing of you. He's watching you. You feel it before you look back. What? You ask, smiling. He shrugs, sips his coffee. You're different now. Good, different? He nods. Yeah, still you, but softer around the edges, like a letter left out in the sun. You raise an eyebrow. Is that a compliment? He laughs. The best kind I know how to give. You don't answer right away. Just sit with the moment, with the way your name sounds different in your own head now, like it's been dusted off, spoken aloud by someone who means it. The hours pass gently. You don't keep track. You read a little from his book. He tells you about a student who wrote an entire paper comparing Pride and Prejudice to modern dating apps. You laugh. He quotes a line about recognition, and you both try to remember the author. At some point, the barista brings over 2 pastries without being asked, a cinnamon bun and a lemon square, and leaves them with a wink. We're becoming predictable, you say. Or just lucky, he replies. Outside, the rain slows. The window fogs a little less. Somewhere in the distance, sunlight tries to push through. You glance at your watch, surprised by how long you've stayed. You should go, you have things to do, errands to run, life waiting. But you don't move. He doesn't either. Instead, he reaches into his coat again and pulls out something small and unexpected. A fountain pen. I've been meaning to ask, he says, do you still write letters? You blink. To people? He shrugs. To yourself, to no one, to whoever's listening. You think about it. Not really. But maybe I should. He hands you the pen. It's beautiful, silver trimmed, worn in places, the kind that's been used, loved. Take it, he says, just in case. You don't argue. You just accept it, because you're beginning to understand something. He doesn't offer things carelessly, whether it's a pen, a pastry, a quote, or your name. He gives quietly, deliberately, with both hands. And somehow, that makes you want to give something back. You don't realize it's missing until later that afternoon. The sky has cleared, not entirely, but just enough for the clouds to part like a curtain. sunlight filtering through in soft golden strands. You've returned home, fed the cat, made tea you forgot to drink again. You're halfway through folding laundry when you reach into your coat pocket and feel only one glove. You pause. You check the other pocket, the lining, the floor near the front door, the kitchen counter, your bag. But it's not here. The gloves are nothing special. Fleece-lined, warm, worn at the fingertips, a shade of dusty rose you picked out last winter when you needed something soft during a hard season. They're comfortable, familiar, and now one is gone. It takes you a moment to realize where it must have been left. The cafe? Specifically, the chair by the window where you curled your hands around your cup for hours, resting one glove in your lap without thinking. You should feel silly, but instead you feel something else entirely. You don't call the cafe. You don't text him. You just wait. Something tells you he'll notice. That evening, the air turns sharp again. The wind carries the smell of chimney smoke and the faint promise of snow, even though it's still too early in the season. You curl beneath a blanket with your journal, the pen he gave you resting nearby. You don't write anything tonight. You just keep opening to a blank page and closing it again. It's almost midnight when you hear the knock. Soft, 2 taps, hesitant. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders and pad toward the door. You don't bother looking through the peephole, you already know. When you open it, he's standing there, and in his hand, held up like a flag of truce, is your glove. You stare at it for a moment, then at him. He's smiling, a little sheepishly. Thought this might be important. You step aside. He hesitates only for a second before stepping in. You close the door behind him. Your apartment is quiet, dimly lit. The record player is spinning something low and instrumental in the corner, a habit you picked up to keep the place from feeling too still. The air smells faintly of lavender and old paperbacks. You take the glove from him, fingers brushing briefly, and cradle it like a note someone returned after years of safekeeping. I didn't even notice I'd left it, you say. I did, he replies gently. You always used to lose one glove. I don't think I ever saw you with a complete pair during our entire undergrad. You laugh, the memory catching you by surprise. That sounds about right. He glances around the space, doesn't comment on the photos on the wall or the books stacked in haphazard towers or the half-knitted scarf left on the arm of your reading chair. He just lets his gaze move slowly, respectfully, like he's arrived in a room full of someone's favorite stories. You offer him tea. He accepts. In the kitchen, you fill the kettle. He leans against the doorframe, arms crossed loosely, not in a hurry. Watching you like this is normal, like this has happened a dozen times before. I like your place, he says eventually. You glance over your shoulder. It's small. He shrugs. So is a notebook. Doesn't mean it can't hold everything important. You feel that somewhere beneath your ribs. The kettle whistles. You pour the water, steep the tea, pass him the mug with both hands. Your fingers brush again. You're not sure if either of you does it on purpose anymore. Back in the living room, you sit on opposite ends of the couch. Not far, but not close. The kind of distance that allows for quiet, for breathing. He notices the pen on your journal. You've used it yet, he asks. You shake your head. I keep opening to the first page and nothing comes. Sometimes a blank page just wants to be witnessed first, he says, before it becomes anything else. You smile, sipping your tea. Is that what you tell your students? He chuckles. It's what I tell myself. The record player clicks softly, switching to the next side. A warm cello drifts through the room, rich and low, like someone humming a lullaby from the next apartment over. You didn't have to bring the glove all the way here, you say. I know, but you did. He looks at you, eyes steady. You remember the things that matter. There it is again, the feeling you can't quite name. Not a rush, not butterflies, just a quiet opening, like a window being unlatched after years of staying closed. You glance at the glove in your lap, then back at him. You always notice things, you say. So do you. Maybe, but I forget them too. He tilts his head. Then maybe I'm here to remind you. You set the mug down carefully. The ceramic clinks against the wood. Then you say his name. Not because you need anything, not because you expect anything, just because it feels right to say it, to speak it aloud, to give it shape in the air between you. His eyes soften. I like when you say my name, he murmurs. You don't respond. Just reach for the folded napkin on the coffee table, the one he left behind days ago, tucked under your journal like a bookmark. You unfold it slowly. Somewhere we never stopped talking. We just paused. He watches your fingers smooth the edges, the way your eyes trace the ink. Then, quietly, he says, I didn't knock because of the glove. You look up. I knocked because I wanted to know what it sounded like when you opened the door. You don't know what to say to that, so you don't say anything. You just sit there, 2 cups of tea cooling on the table, one glove resting between them like a thread that had been dropped and quietly picked up again. The city outside grows quieter, the rain has stopped, the moonlight pools softly across the floor. Neither of you moves to leave. Not yet. Sometimes you realize being remembered feels exactly like being found. He doesn't leave that night, not in the way that matters. You don't ask him to stay, and he doesn't ask to. But somehow, you both remain on the couch long after the tea has gone cold. The lamp glows softly beside you, casting golden shapes on the ceiling. The music ends, and neither of you moves to flip the record. You talk in low tones, voices blurred by the hour, the way people speak in the small hours when time stops asking for attention. He tells you about the apartment he lived in after university, a cramped 1-bedroom above a hardware store, where the walls were so thin he knew his neighbor's favorite soup recipes and breakup songs by heart. He tells you he hated it, but also kind of loved it. It was the first place I ever paid rent in my own name, he says. I felt like I'd been given permission to start. You nod. Mine was above a second-hand shoe store. The entire building smelled like leather and mildew, but it had the best morning light. I used to read on the floor with my back against the fridge because it was the warmest spot. He smiles, almost dreamily. I can picture that. You don't know what it is, the hour, the hush, the way he says things like he's pulling them out of a drawer lined with velvet, but everything feels closer, sharper, more real. Eventually, your legs fall asleep from sitting too long. You stretch, stand, walk barefoot into the kitchen to refill the kettle, not because you need more tea, but because you need to move. He follows, leans against the counter. His eyes move slowly across your fridge magnets, your little stack of unread postcards, the fading grocery list written on the chalkboard by the pantry. He says nothing, just notices. That's one of the things you're starting to love most about him, the way he notices without needing to claim or comment. You ask if he wants to stay for breakfast in the morning. He says yes. It's the easiest yes you've ever heard. You pull down an extra blanket and make up the couch with quiet movements. He offers to help. You wave him off. I've got it. He looks around the room once more, then at you. You sure? You nod. It's just one night, but you both know that's only partially true. He settles in as you retreat down the hallway, the soft hush of your door closing behind you. You don't sleep right away. You lie in bed, eyes open, heart steady, listening to the sounds of your apartment holding someone else's breath. It doesn't feel invasive. It feels like another layer, like your space is exhaling for the first time in a long while. In the morning, you wake early. The light is exactly as you said, gold across the floor, touching the tips of your bookshelf like the sun knows where you need it most. You pad to the kitchen in your robe and find him already awake, sitting cross-legged on the couch, reading one of your books. He looks up, smiles. I hope you don't mind. You shake your head. Of course not. He holds up the book. The uncollected letters of Else Martin. I've never read her, he says. She writes like every sentence is trying to find a place to sit down. That's my favorite kind, he replies. You start breakfast simple things. Toast, eggs, slices of pear, a pot of strong coffee. He moves around the kitchen like someone learning a language he once knew. Not awkward, but careful, observant. He finds the plates without asking, passes you a fork when your hands are full. When you sit at the table, he does something you don't expect. He reaches across and places your glove in the center, between your plates. I thought it should have breakfast too, he says, eyes dancing. You laugh, really laugh, and it breaks something open in the room, not in a destructive way, like fresh air cracking a window. I'm never going to live that glove down, am I? Not a chance. After you eat, he lingers, helps wash dishes, dries everything with a towel you forgot had a hole in the corner. You play a record slow piano, soft strings, and neither of you talks much. It's not silence, it's peace. Later, as he gathers his coat, he pauses at the bookshelf. You have a first edition of Seamus Frost? You nod. Gift from a friend. She found it in a thrift shop in Ohio. He pulls it down carefully, opens the cover, smiles. It's signed. Only on the inside, you say. He turns the book over once more. Everything worth keeping usually is. You walk him to the door. He doesn't ask to stay again, doesn't press for more, just stands there in the morning light, coat slung over one arm, the glove, the now infamous glove, tucked into his pocket like a talisman. Thanks for breakfast, he says. Thanks for the rescue mission. His eyes linger on you. There's something in the moment, not tension, not expectation, just fullness, like the air is rich with all the things not needing to be said out loud. Then, just before he turns, he says it. Your name. Not like a question this time, like an affirmation, like the punctuation at the end of a sentence he's been meaning to say for years. And when the door closes, the quiet that remains doesn't feel like absence. It feels like promise. That evening, you find the record again. It's the one you almost gave away when you moved last year, tucked between stacks of others, its cover faded and worn, a soft shade of green with gold lettering, the sleeve slightly frayed at the edges. You remember picking it up at a flea market years ago, drawn in by the handwritten note taped to the front for the slowest days and the warmest evenings. You slide it out carefully, the vinyl cool and smooth in your hands. The apartment is quiet. Outside, the sun is beginning to sink, casting long bars of amber light across the rug. The air is still, not heavy, just waiting. You place the record on the turntable and lower the needle. It starts with a hum. Not a song, not at first, just a slow rising hum of strings, as if the instruments are stretching awake. Then a piano joins, soft as breath. The melody unfolds like honey, one note at a time. You sit on the couch, legs tucked beneath you, arms around a pillow you don't remember picking up. The glove is still on the table. You haven't put it away yet. You like seeing it there, a quiet reminder. You don't text him. You don't need to. You hear the knock just before the second track begins. When you open the door, he's standing there, coat unbuttoned, scarf loose, a book under one arm. He looks like he's come from a place just down the street and also from years away. I brought you something, he says, holding up the book. It's got terrible poetry. I thought you'd love it. You smile and step aside. Come in. He walks slowly into the room, his eyes scanning the space like he's cataloging it again, not because it's new, but because he's the kind of person who likes to remember where things are, who notices when a picture frame is moved 2 inches or a candle is burned halfway down. He stops when he hears the music. Is that? You nod. The record from the green sleeve. He breathes a soft laugh. You used to play that in the library reading room. I always knew when you were there. You motion to the couch. He sits. You join him. The book rests on the coffee table. Neither of you opens it. The record keeps playing. The room stretches wider somehow, not physically, but emotionally. Like there's more space now, simply because you're no longer filling it with distance. I like your quiet, he says. You tilt your head. What do you mean? I mean, you're the only person I've ever known who can make a room feel fuller by saying nothing at all. Your breath catches just slightly. You're not sure how to respond, so you don't. You lean back, close your eyes for a moment, and let the music fill the space between your thoughts. There's something about sitting beside someone without needing to perform, without needing to reach for conversation like it's a duty. You don't feel the urge to make him laugh. You don't need him to be impressed. You don't even need to ask why he came, because you already know he came because it's enough to be near you. When the record flips itself, there's a faint clicking sound. He turns his head toward the player, then back to you. Do you dance? The question surprises you, not because it's strange, but because it's so gentle, so unassuming. Not well, you reply. He smiles. That's not what I asked. You hesitate. Then you stand. He rises too. There's barely enough room between the couch and the bookshelf. The rug is slightly uneven. A teacup rests dangerously close to your foot, but none of it matters. He holds out a hand. You take it. There's no form to it, no real dancing, not in the way other people would define it. You sway together, slowly, barely moving, just letting the music give your body something to agree on. Your hands find a rhythm before your feet do. His palm against yours is warm and steady. His other hand rests lightly on your back, not pressing, just there, just enough. You close your eyes. Let the smell of cedar and citrus from his coat wrap around you. Let the music guide the moment. Let the quiet do what it does best, hold you without question. After a few minutes, he speaks. I used to imagine this. You open your eyes. Not exactly like this, he continues. But the feeling, the closeness. I'd be reading in some cafe or walking home in the rain and think, somewhere she's doing something soft, something lovely, and I hope she's okay. You feel your breath in your throat, tender and caught. I used to imagine you in bookshops, you say, writing notes in margins, leaving pieces of yourself for someone else to find. I did, he says. I found them, you reply. You stay like that for a while, moving gently, not because the music asks you to, but because your heart seemed to. Eventually the track ends. Silence follows. Neither of you breaks it, not right away. When you finally pull back, he doesn't let go of your hand. He just looks at you, not with longing, not with urgency, but with something steadier, something like recognition. You feel like home, he says. You say his name. He smiles. And this time, you reach for his face, just the edge of his cheek, your thumb resting beneath his eye. No kiss, no promise, just closeness, just knowing, just two people who remembered something beautiful and found the courage to return to it. You wake up to stillness, not silence. There's birdsong now, soft and hesitant, like it's been waiting for the right cue. There's the distant sound of water dripping from eaves, puddles settling under the morning light. But the rain, for once, has stopped. Your window, usually streaked in gray by this hour, glows. The sky outside is pale blue with wide stretches of white, and your apartment feels like it's holding its breath, not with tension but with possibility. You pull on a sweater, wrap your hands around a mug, and stand by the glass. You hadn't realized how much the rain had become part of the rhythm, each meeting with him wrapped in clouds and softness, the world blurred by mist and umbrellas. But now, without it, without the excuse of weather or shelter, things feel brighter, clearer. a little more real. You think of last night, the music, his hand in yours, the way your bodies moved together like something remembered, not rehearsed. How he held your gaze without expectation, how your name on his lips felt not like an ending, but a pause. You wonder where he is now. As if summoned, your phone buzzes. A single message. Walk with me. No punctuation, just the words. Open, steady, like the day itself. You reply without thinking. Yes. You meet in the park near the old fountain, the one that still leaks from a crack along the base, the one with the bench carved with initials that might outlive all of you. He's already there when you arrive, standing beneath the newly green trees, hands tucked into his coat pockets, face turned up toward the light. He turns at the sound of your footsteps. You smile, and he says your name, not like before. This time, he says it the way someone says a truth they've known for years gently, without needing to convince anyone. Good morning, you say. Better now, he replies. The walk begins without ceremony. The gravel path crunches lightly beneath your shoes. The air smells like damp earth and lilacs. A breeze moves past you both, tugging at leaves that glitter in the light. You walk without touching, but close enough that your arms brush now and then. Close enough that the space between you doesn't feel like space at all. You pass joggers, a woman with a golden retriever, two children racing each other on scooters, laughter trailing behind them like a ribbon. The world feels open today, like someone cracked a window and let in the newness. I can't remember the last day it didn't rain, you say. Me neither, he answers. Feels like it's been raining since the first time I saw you again. Maybe we needed the rain. He glances sideways. Why? To slow us down. He nods. You stop at a bench near the rose garden. The blooms aren't out yet, just buds, tightly furled, shy in the light. But there's promise there, a kind of quiet readiness. You sit. He does too. You don't speak for a long while, just sit together, breathing, listening. A pair of ducks pass in the distance, quacking quietly like they're in on a joke you haven't heard yet. Then he says, I used to walk here when I missed you. You turn to look at him. I'd sit right here, he continues, gesturing to the bench, and try to remember the way you used to talk with your hands, the way you bit the inside of your cheek when you were thinking. I was afraid I'd forget if I didn't keep coming back. You say nothing at first. You're not sure what to do with that kind of tenderness, not the loud kind, but the kind that sits quietly inside someone for years. I forgot so many things, you admit. He shakes his head. Not the things that mattered. You smile, small and soft. He reaches into his coat not for a book or a napkin this time, but for something simpler, a piece of paper, folded twice. He hands it to you. You unfold it carefully. It's your handwriting, a note you must have written long ago, a to-do list on one side, and on the other, in the corner, a sentence you don't remember writing. I hope one day someone sees me exactly as I am and doesn't flinch. You look up, eyes stinging unexpectedly. Where did you find this? It was inside the poetry book, he says, pressed between the pages like a leaf. I've carried it with me for a while. You trace the letters with your thumb, your old self reaching forward without knowing who would be there to meet her. He's watching you now, but not closely, not intensely, just fully, like he sees you. You fold the paper back up and hold it in your lap. Then, without speaking, you reach over and take his hand. It fits. Not perfectly, there's a little awkwardness in the first few seconds, the negotiation of fingers, the shift and settle. But once it lands, once it rests, it feels like something that was always meant to return. The sun breaks fully through the clouds. You sit in its warmth. His thumb brushes gently over your knuckles, slow, thoughtful, like punctuation on a sentence he's not in a rush to finish. You stay like that for a long time, long enough to see a bud tremble open, long enough to know that sometimes love doesn't arrive all at once. Sometimes it circles back, quiet and brave. Sometimes it remembers your name before you remember your own. The next day, the sky is clear. No rain, no clouds, just a blue so wide and clean it makes you pause on your way out the door, keys in hand, shoes already damp from the dew. The city feels new, like someone took it apart overnight and put it back together a little straighter, a little softer. You think of him, of course. You've been thinking of him in small ways all day, his hand on yours at the park, the paper folded in your pocket, the note in your own handwriting that still feels like it was meant for right now. You haven't texted him, he hasn't texted you, but not out of distance. You're just letting the moment breathe. You spend the morning in your favorite bookstore, the one with crooked shelves and little handwritten signs that say things like staff pick, broke my heart in a good way, and read this if you need to remember something beautiful. You drift slowly through the aisles, run your fingers along the spines. The place smells like dust and paper and vanilla. The same man behind the counter offers you tea in a chipped mug. You say yes. You sit in a corner chair, knees pulled up, and start a novel without intending to buy it. You read 20 pages. You fold down the corner even though you know that's frowned upon. Then, without thinking, you tuck the book under your arm and head to the counter. You ask if they have a pen. They do. Inside the front cover, you write a name. Not yours. His. The full version. The one he told you once, years ago, in a voice quiet with trust. A name most people forget. A name almost nobody uses. You write it carefully. Each letter, the full truth of him. Then you add, I never forgot, even when I thought I did. You leave the book there. Don't buy it. Just ask the man behind the counter if he'll leave it on the shelf with the note inside. He looks at you for a moment, searching your face like maybe you're handing him a page from your heart. Then he nods. When you leave the shop, you feel lighter. You wander through the streets without any real direction. You buy a plum from the fruit cart. You sit by the fountain near the church and let the sunlight touch your ankles. You write 2 more sentences in your journal and immediately tear the page out, fold it into a triangle, and leave it under a rock near the bench. You feel like you're leaving breadcrumbs to your own heart, and you think maybe he'll follow them. That night, you return home to find a book resting just outside your door, wrapped in brown paper. No note, no ribbon, no handwriting. But you bring it inside carefully, place it on the table. For a moment, you don't unwrap it. Just sit with it there beside you, palms flat on the wood, letting the moment unfold. Then slowly, you pull the paper back. It's a blank journal, hardcover, dark green. You open to the first page. There's nothing written there, just a pressed flower, one of the early spring ones, tiny and blue. You don't know its name. Tucked beneath it is a napkin. Of course, on the napkin, just 4 words. Write what you remember. You smile, and it catches somewhere behind your eyes. You reach for a pen, the one he gave you, and without overthinking it, you begin to write. Not a story, not a poem, just a list. A list of things he's remembered. Your favorite drink, your full name, the book you quoted once, the glove, the silence, the song you loved in spring, the way you curl your hand around a mug when you're thinking, the line you wrote in a book and forgot, the way your voice softens when you say goodbye. You pause at the end of the list, consider it, then underneath it you add 1 more line. I remembered yours too. You close the journal gently. The glove is still on the shelf. The old record is still resting by the player. And for the first time in years, you feel like everything you've ever forgotten, every note, every word, every version of yourself you left behind has quietly come home. The next morning you meet him again, no planning, just a quiet agreement written between your footsteps and the rhythm of the city. He's waiting at the corner table, your table, already 2 mugs set down, one for you. You slide into the seat without a word. He doesn't speak either, but he reaches across the table, takes your hand in his, and just holds it. His thumb draws small circles on the side of your finger, and after a while you say it, his name, the real one, the full one, and he looks up with that same soft smile, the one you remember before anything else. Thank you, he says. For what? For saying it like that. You tilt your head. Like what? Like you never stopped knowing it. You nod. Because it's true. And some part of you, the part that always believed in rain and notes in margins and names spoken slowly, always knew this was the story you'd come back to. Not because it was unfinished, but because it had been waiting.